Hello. Today on the Bioanxiety podcast, we have the wonderful Nandita, who is a product manager here in New York. But your path actually started somewhere completely different. So, with that, I will let you take it over and tell us your wonderful story.
Thank you, Josie, for having me over and for creating the space for people to tell their stories. I started my professional life back in 2011 when I just graduated out of college. I went to a business school, and thereafter I went on to start my own company, my startup. My company ran for about 6 years. And in those 6 years, I learned lessons that no business school in this world can teach you. But that in itself is another journey. The reason why I started my company is because I grew up. Both my parents are first generation entrepreneurs, so I really grew up in a business environment. I not only saw the value of creating something from the ground up, and providing something of value, but I could see firsthand the impact it makes to start your own shop, from creating jobs to supporting families, this kind of social ecosystem that you help build. So yeah, I was naturally drawn to it, and I was waiting for an opportunity. I did have a digital advertising job after my college, but that was just to do research. And then yeah, I had an e-commerce business. Me and my co-founder started this. And in while running the e-commerce business, right from UX to website management to inventory to logistics, brand identity, name it all, I learned them as I was doing it. So it was a very valuable experience. And I think after a period of time, there did come a time where it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense continuing it. And there was a time I'm like, okay, I need to pull the plug. And I did. And that by itself was like a whole painful character building season that I traversed. But then, I was like, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do with my life? I did this thing for 6 years, ran a business, but I knew because there's an equivalent job in the tech world, which is product management. So it was very clear to me that I guess I can be a business owner or work in product. So this had become clear to me, but then I wanted to just empower myself with more knowledge and the skills, and that's why I went to a coding boot camp. The next season was, "Okay, let's go to New York, let's go to a coding
Next
boot
season
camp." Next
of the
season,
life.
new season. I'm like, I'll go to New York. Things will get better. And it took a while to get there. But yeah, I went to a coding boot camp to just I did software engineering, full stack over a couple of months. And thereafter to business school. I mean, I went to business school not because I thought that I needed to go to a business school. It's because I moved from Mumbai to New York, and in order to work here and the visa situation. So yeah, I did a very New York City style business school where I was working while I was I used to work from 9 to 5:30, and from 5:45 to 9:45 I would attend classes. So that was my business school experience.
That's insane.
Yeah.
You went to two schools at the same time.
Yeah, the whole time. And I didn't have a traditional business MBA program kind of a thing, but I think I'm better for it. I'm better for it because I think I had that clarity that I wanted to do product. So I'm like, okay, let me just start working now itself.
How were those first few months after you had to shut down your e-commerce business? Because I mean, the anxiety must have been not just the anxiety from starting at the beginning, but once you ended it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, oh man, my family would be, thank God they're not here to listen to this. But yeah, it was really difficult because, I started really young. I got so much advice from so many people that don't do it, you're too young. And I was like, no, I want to fail early, I want to learn early. And I did fail early, and I did learn a lot, but it was very painful. But I think there was constant anxiety, so much. And I realized that there must be something that can help me in this situation. And that's when I found the beauty of Code Academy, this free online resource that could teach me to code. So I think I used my anxiety. Like, of course, I mean, this is after like laying in my bed for months and then being like, I can channel this somewhere. So I was like in my bed, started to teach myself to code. That kind of helped me at least like steer a bit forward.
Yeah, that's really good. Like, and I'm a big believer in taking your anxiety and turning it into fuel to help you succeed and learn something new. So once you moved to New York,
Yes.
how was that? Like, how first of all, how was leaving India? Because I mean, it's a very different world here,
Yeah.
right? So
I mean, it was, I deep down, I always knew I wanted to live in New York and do these things. It was, I'd come to a very logical end to that phase of my life because I did what I wanted to do, I explored it, and then it was just the time to like, okay, go explore more. So I came in with that spirit, but of course, it was so difficult. Like I didn't know anyone when I came to the city. I didn't know anyone, and I had prepared myself mentally that you're just going to be alone the whole time, and that's fine.
just be alone the whole
But
time.
that's not how it turned out to be. Like I just went on to like make beautiful friendships along the way, piece by piece. And yeah, like I think I had done the mental makeup that I probably won't have those many friends, but I was totally wrong. I met more people that who saw me for who I was, and it was just better than what I thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean, New York is such a this. It's so easy to make friends. I feel like it's easy to make friends here, right?
Yeah.
So, so once you finished the business school here, how's that? Like, how was the job search? Like, how did you go about finding a role here in New York? What was that like? The process?
It was really intense because product in New York is like the best. Like you want to do product in New York, and it is really difficult to crack in. I think it's really difficult to crack in, but once you're inside, it's like easy to navigate. I was interviewing, I was applying for 50 jobs a day. Like I used to go to like a place where, like AWS where you would get like free coffee and free internet, and I would just sit there for 8 hours interviewing, applying to jobs. It was it was a very testing time in my life, like to apply, because I would get into like last round of interviews, but then they would be like, no, you don't have the relevant experience, or because I didn't have like a big company on my profile, I wouldn't get through the last rounds. And I feel like similar to like venture capitalists, like there's like this trend matching. People tend to hire only what they resonate with. And I think there's a big problem with that. But like not many people have started their own company and could resonate with my experience. So they couldn't see how that actually matches. But if you know anyone in product, you would know that like many entrepreneurs go on to make really good product managers. So that was a challenge. I was living on a couch. I was babysitting for like grocery and stuff. I think that phase of my life I will never forget. And it was so beautiful at the same time because, when you know like you want something and you just entirely are focused on getting that and everything else is really shitty. There's like a different kind of beauty in that, I guess.
Oh, you learned from that experience and you turned it into a positive one, right?
Yes.
And then it led to your awesome job, which you love now.
Yes.
So, what is like a day in your life as a product manager?
Right. Yeah. So I work as a senior PM at Amex, which is a great company to work for. So it's like very fintech. My day to day involves, so I work with an engineering team. I have an engineering team for me. So they are my partners, and I work with UX designers and UX researchers as well. And then there are the data guys. So basically, a product manager is someone who's not good at any of those things, but is just the person who's like, okay, guys, I identified a problem and let's build this. I validated that it's a problem, let's build this. So now you can see, right, like how it's very similar to being a business owner where wearing multiple hats. So my day to day involves around like, first of all, like I work on strategy for something that's not yet fully hashed out. So if I'm just working on the strategy, that involves like digging deeper into the problems, talking to business stakeholders, gathering data to like really be like, this is a problem. But if I'm working on an existing product, it involves like stand-ups with tech, Like, there are features, user stories. So I plan every 3 months of work for the engineering team has to do. So like making sure all the user stories are getting filled, validating the requirements. So it's a bit of both, like working with tech as well as looking ahead. So my right now, my current role, I'm more about looking ahead. So it's been interesting. Like even this, I'm doing something new, something I've not done ever. Like I got really used to the implementation phase in product management, but this year I'm working more on strategy, and that's something new. So every day I go in with little, oh, like anxiety, like how am I going to do this? And I end my day doing it somehow. And then again, next day, there's a new anxiety that I have no idea how to do this.
How do you handle, like, how do you manage that, like the imposter syndrome, the work anxiety from it? Like, is there anything you do? Like, how do you start your day? Like,
Yes, totally. I mean, regarding imposter syndrome, I just fight that concept. I try to not attach myself to that. Even I don't know, I might have it, I might not have it. I'm just very detached to that idea because it took such a journey, so much work to like finally believe in myself. And now that I do little believe in myself, I just don't want anything that taking away from that. But how do I go about like dealing with that anxiety is I think I've come to accept, right, like listening to my story, that anxiety is always going to be there. When you don't have a job, you want it and you have anxiety. When you get the job, you have anxiety. When you do okay, your anxiety. So it's always going to be there. So like to have that acceptance that it's there, and then we just have to manage it. Like no, just have to manage it. I try to like stay still. Like it's so easier said than done, but I do have like a very hashed out meditation practice where I try to silence the inner voice, this monologue. I think that's what meditation is all about. Like, to just try to silence that inner voice, not negate it, but just silence it. And yeah, which is why I think like even on your podcast you have the meditation practice which can serve a lot of people, maybe like in their commute to work. Yeah.
I'm a big believer in meditation. I think you know that.
Yeah.
So, what kind of advice do you have for listeners who are looking to move into a product manager role or field? Like, where should they start?
I think you should start from the end. Like start from the end, take reverse steps. So what I mean by that is if you want to get into product, take a look, like go and try to like see a job description for product management in a company that you want, and then look up all the skills and be like, okay, what is it that I don't have in this or in my narrative, in your story narrative, what is not fitting? So start from there. And then when you see that what you don't have, actually invest in yourself. Like there are so many courses, like I'm not saying go and get a degree, but there are so many boot camps happening, online courses. Those are really valuable because as an employer, you've taken out time and resources from your life and did a deep dive into this. So I would say invest in yourself and start from the end. Like be specific. Specificity. It's boring, but I think it works when you're really specific about what you want. Break it down, see what it takes to get there, and like start upskilling yourself.
Thank you. And as one last question that I do like to ask, what is the one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Oh my God. What will I tell myself? I will tell myself, you were right. You were right about everything. Like, the feeling, like the inkling that you have, the intuition that you have, as a young person, like you go watch something and you suddenly feel so inspired. You feel this gush of inspiration within you. You don't know what that is, but then that is really who you are. That is your gift, and to just hold on to that, not belittle it by being like, oh, this is a phase. No, like everything that excites you, hold those things, collect them in a metaphorical box and keep them very close to you, because the older you grow, you're literally going to fight for those things. You're going to realize that that's really who you are, and you're going to shape your whole life around it. That's what I would tell my younger self, that don't torment yourself with all the self doubt and gaslighting yourself all the time. What excites you, that is your truth.
Thank you. Well, it was amazing to hear your wonderful story and get to know you a little bit better. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And yeah, thank you, Nandita.
Thank you, Josie.